Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I'm Bill Knight. Happy to be on board with you today. Hump Day. We're downhill slide to the weekend. Davos hasn't taken place yet.
Yeah, I know. You hear about his airplane? The president. He had a problem.
That kind of caught me off guard because it's an electrical problem. Now, I mean, things can happen. But then again, too, I was thinking, and, all this, hoopla. Well, he was given a gifted a big 747 that everybody boo-hooed about, but is brand new,
But aren't they still working on that plane? I think they're still. They literally
may
have
be
gotten
still, retrofitting and all that, and everyone. But most companies, even the rock band Iron Maiden, that had a 747, they retired the plane, and then it went on to some junk flight thing for about a year or two. And then the plane came back to do its final rest, a 747, a big one. And planes have a certain, lifespan, like a car and everything else. You can restore it or whatever. Now, what I thought was kind of cool, and I thought, man, they could do that with Air Force One. Think of all the presidents that have been on it. And what they did was they sent this off to, I think it was in Switzerland, somewhere in Europe. They sent it off to the scrapyard that cuts down the plane to metal. And they made these very commemorative Iron Maiden keychains with the number of the plane on the back. And those things are going for about 80 or 90 bucks a piece, and they're, tens of thousands of them are made from the plane. Could you imagine getting that, a piece of Air Force One that you
That's a good idea.
With a history of everything.
But I don't think, Bill, that they're treated like your standard 747, for example. I think you'd probably find that most every part in that airplane has been replaced probably numerous times. They've replaced engines. They have rebolted panels. They have literally gutted the plane on occasion and then put it all back together. When a new president comes on board, I think they refurbish the carpeting. If the seating is worn, they replace the seats. The planes are made to look brand new with each new president.
For the most part, yeah. But I'm saying take the skin of the plane. Go ahead and sell it.
But maybe they're going to do that. But you know what they did with the one that was President Kennedy's plane? I think that plane is at the Reagan Library. It's the same one I think that Ronald Reagan flew for a while. And I think that you'll find that one's at the Presidential Library out in California.
I was just saying that, Trump is so into, things that have tangible value. You
make
can
a
do
Trump
that and sell
trinket out of it. A Trump trinket.
That would really tick off the left.
We'll
put his name on it.
We'll put it Trump Force One on the item, because he loves having his name on his items. So,
he should do that with his jet and get a new one, because it would pay for it, and he could sit there with the serial number on it. He could make it like a Bitcoin or a gold. It could be a coin or whatever it is that holds value and grows in value.
They say
there won't be any more of them.
His plane, his 757, they say is actually more plush than the Air Force One. I mean, in his plane, he loves gold. Apparently, this gold and wood paneling, and it's really a very plush airplane. So sometimes, you must feel like a step down to get on Air Force One. But last night, they were an hour and a half out of Washington when they had to turn around.
That's a good ways.
And, the thing is, I don't know, every system on that plane has a backup and maybe two backups. My question is, if there was an electrical problem and they have all these redundant backup systems, you would think
kept going.
They could have kept going on the flight. Something major had to happen.
Yeah, and they're not talking about it now. And just going with the, I don't want to say conspiracy, but let's just say they've taken a shot at him. They had a killer in the grass out at his golf course.
Yep.
I'm sitting there going, who knows how many other times could somebody have sat there and said, you know what, just take down the whole damn plane and everybody in it.
Well,
And,
the thing is, they would never tell us.
well, let's say there was a bomb in the plane.
Exactly. Yeah. Uh, they would never admit that they were vulnerable. I'm saying this is, and by the way, if what I heard is true, they had to go to a smaller plane to fly to Davos,
Yeah.
which is a step down. And they must have, the press, crew must have been upset about that. I mean, I heard someone say this morning, yeah, the first thing they got on the plane, the stewards on the plane were saying, probably the bar is open, free drinks for everybody. But apparently he's there now. I think he's in Davos.
It's the meetings today, but I do think there's more than meets the eye with that story, and I would just kind of keep your ear to it. They'll tap it down. But
what's interesting, Bill? When we were doing the show yesterday, we said that he was en route already because I had read stories that he was already in the air, that he'd already taken off. So I think there was a delay. I think something happened while we were on the air or yesterday morning where they delayed the flight. So there may have been some kind of a threat against his life, like you said, that they were kind of aware of, and maybe it manifested itself when they were in the air in the airplane. It could have been, Bill. It could have been anything. It could have been a problem with somebody in the press corps who maybe didn't have his credentials. I mean, there could have been any number of things that caused them to turn around.
Well, it could have been that, or it could have been somebody that was on the plane that nobody will talk about.
Yes.
That was like the lady in the bus in Philadelphia. That, it's just, we're on the bus.
Well,
we're rolling.
it's funny.
Okay, let's attack a conservative.
It's funny you should say that. We should point out what happened yesterday. This young journalist, independent journalist, was on a regular old city bus, and I guess he was talking about something. There was a lady sitting behind him, and she was obviously upset with the conversation she was hearing, so she started to scream at him, and then she started to slap him and punch him, and then she took out her pepper spray from her purse and sprayed him for no reason. And then she got off the bus. Did they ever get her, Bill? Did the police ever get her? I don't think so. I think she. I could be wrong. I did a quick survey, and I didn't see where there were any consequences paid. She got off the bus, and she seemed to just walk away. I mean, assaulting somebody with pepper spray for no reason. It
happened last night. I guess for the drive home. Maybe somebody going home from work and they were talking. And they did that. It brings up a point, and maybe when we take a break, I'm going to have you look up something because I found it very interesting. The left, they're loud. They're very loud, and they're in your face. They have the right to make, mayhem and nonsense. So, one would think, boy, they are really a powerful. There's a lot of them. And then I realized something. Totally by accident, working on a project for another thing that I do. And I was trolling around websites in the Northeast, liberal central. And what I found was totally the opposite of liberal. They may have control of the voting. They may have their people in play. Their woke people picked and chosen, and they're in there. But the mainstream where the liberals would reside are conservatives. And I was like going, whoa. And I thought, you know what? They are desperate. They are really desperate. And they are really making a scene.
It's funny you should mention that. It's a perfect lead into what I was going to start the show off with today.
Sure.
You're right. You're absolutely correct. The reason why Biden opened the borders was they've come to the conclusion, the left has, that if we don't have illegal votes, we're not going to win anything. Because they've proven, and it was Clinton who proved this, that first-generation migrants usually are grateful to the Democrats and usually always vote Democratic. But subsequent generations from those migrants, meaning second generation and third generation, it diminishes as much as 50% in the second generation because people start to realize, wait, we were used as pawns. And they start to look around the political landscape and see there are alternatives. Anyway, Peter Schweitzer is an author. He's a smart guy. He's written some great books. He's written a brand new book that came out yesterday. It's already #1 on the New York Times best-selling list. It's called The Invisible Coup. He's been on a number of talk shows. He was on with Mark Levin yesterday, and it was a great interview. I have it. It's about 15 minutes long. I'm going to play a couple of little pieces of it, and if I can, I'll put some more together and play them tomorrow. Peter Schweitzer started off by talking about Mexico, because that's where the border was opened up to, Mexico. And people think they opened the border and that was the end game. Open the border and get people in. No, it's not the end game. It's the beginning game. Listen.
Yeah, so Mexico, people think Mexico's interest in immigration is they have a safety valve. They can kind of let their people here. They get remittances. All of that's true. But they actually view mass migration and those that are inside the United States as a tool to essentially retake territories that they lost from us in the 19th century with the Mexican-American War. And if that sounds crazy, all you need to do is read the quotes in the book. There are dozens of them from senior officials, including presidents and senators in Mexico, saying that's the case. And they've weaponized their consulates in the country. There's 53 of them. Compare that to the United Kingdom and China, which have 6 and 7. So they have this vast network. And what you're referring to, Mark, was a meeting in May of 2024, an election year in the United States. Donald Trump, they did not want Donald Trump to win. Mexico was adamantly opposed to that. They brought diplomats together from Los Angeles, from consulates in Orlando and everywhere in between, gathered in Oklahoma City. Foreign ministry officials from Mexico City came up. The foreign minister of Mexico addressed the group by video. But with these diplomats, meeting with them were Democratic Party political activists. And the conversation was about how were they going to stop Trump. And the conversation between these diplomats and Democratic consultants was, you know, we turned California from red to blue. We turned Arizona from red to blue. We need to turn the rest of the country from red to blue. This is not what diplomats are supposed to be doing. It's an outrageous violation of our sovereignty by a foreign government. And it's just one example of many of how Mexican diplomats are interfering in our politics. They're also organizing some of these violent protests that we're seeing taking place in our streets.
Peter Schweitzer, Peter Schweitzer with Mark Levin yesterday. And what's interesting, I didn't realize this, Mexico has 53 consulates in the United States. England has 6, and China has 7. I mean, it is unbelievable. This was such an interesting interview that I bought the book. It's going to be here tomorrow because in the interview he just had nugget after nugget of information that people don't know. I mean, you're going to hear him talking about China, about the Muslims. You're going to hear him talking about Russia. I mean, the guy goes, it is absolutely, he's going to talk about NGOs like the Catholic Church down on the border when they were helping the illegals come across. It's because there's an element in the Catholic Church. And I'm Catholic, and I'm a traditional Catholic, okay? I believe in the fundamentals of the Catholic Church as I was taught as a kid. But there's an element in Catholicism, thanks to like Pope Francis, that wants to see capitalism and our form of government as we know it gone, replaced by more of a socialistic government. And this is a church doing this. And it's and I'm sure it's not sanctioned by, if it were a church that were being run by, for example, Pope John Paul II, you never have that problem. But because we had a socialist pope, it was something which was thought of as being useful, I guess. You want to say something, Bill? Okay.
I got my eye actually.
No, I got another cue, another segment. This is Schweitzer, and he continues talking about Mexico. Listen.
And so think about this for a second, Mark. You have these Mexican officials that live inside the United States who are organizing violent protests. They are distributing, they are waving the Mexican flags at a lot of these events. But to your point, these Mexican diplomats, they're also out there fighting for the radical Palestinian cause. They're also out there fighting for the Chinese cause because they view it as one in the same. It is a alliance of convenience. They don't have the same view of the world. You know, China and Mexico, the Muslim Brotherhood, they have different views of how they want society organized, but they have one common enemy, and that's the United States. So they reinforce each other, and they try to help each other, and they're successful in doing so. And that's, I think, one of the key things to understand. There's a reason why some of the familiar faces, familiar organizations that were involved in the violent anti-Israel protests on college campuses have now migrated to Minneapolis, and they're organizing the anti-ICE protests. There's a reason that this is happening, and the reason is they see migration as a tool that can be weaponized, that can be used to undermine American civilization and advance what they want, which is a radically different country. They talk about transforming our country, and that is what their goal is, and they're working very hard towards it.
Thank you to the Mark Levin Show. That's Peter Schweitzer. The name of the book is The Invisible Coup. It's out right now. It's already #1. What's interesting, in the interview, he said, you know, these different groups who you would not think have anything in common will band together to fight against us in our form of government. What happens and what has happened around the world in other governments and other countries is when one of them wins, like when the Muslims won in Tehran, right? When they win, they turn on the people who were helping them. For example, in this country, we have a lot of trans and gay people who are marching for these different groups. And they think they're being so very clever and so very avant-garde. Well, what's going to happen is, God forbid, if they win, if they were to get power, the first people they would go after, and this is historic, is they would go after those groups. They would go after the gays and the trans people. They would be murdered.
And the politicians that let them in, there is a force that wants power and control. And, you know, if you're going to invade and take over a country for whatever reason, you actually need a staging platform. And I truly believe that little Timmy Waltz was, you know, never a true American patriot. And, you know, he visited Russia so many times. He's been indoctrinated, maybe not by the Russians, but he's been indoctrinated by somebody, and he got to be governor. And Minnesota has become a staging ground for a revolution against the country. And I sit there and I look at Bernie Sanders. You know, he's always been a socialist and going, you have to take over a party, because he wanted to flip this nation too.
Oh, yeah.
But he just couldn't do it in the great state of Vermont, Vermont.
Yes.
Wherever he is.
Yeah. You know, the funny thing about Bernie Sanders, people say, well, you know, why is he so anti-Israel? He's Jewish. No. When Bernie Sanders considers religion, he's a communist. He's a socialist. His first priority isn't his birth faith, Judaism. His first priority is his political policies, and that's progressivism and socialism.
You know, he presents himself as a man of the people, a poor person. He has, I think, 5 or 6 homes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, look at little AOC. Little AOC was worth nothing, and now she is a millionaire in just a short period of time, a little cocktail waitress. and I think she worked at a, fast food place. So great. A lot of people done that. You can go on to greatness, but she's lying. She's a poser. And, she's calling everyone xenophobes and homophobes and racist. Sounds like a page out of Hillary there. And I'm sitting there going, and you crazy white people. And I'm like going, when that comes out of, I think she's Puerto Rican. So when that comes out of a Puerto Rican's mouth, that makes you the racist, and I want my reparations because, I can't help how I was born, just like you can't.
They just started an investigation into Ilhan Omar.
And she's mad about the memes.
But wait a second, folks. 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, I think it was 3 years ago now, she was worth $54,000 on her. She had to do a statement of worth, I guess. They have to submit this every year. Congressman?
Yeah, and that $54,000 is whatever liquid cash you got, whatever assets. Somebody might go, you're worth $100,000, and you're going, I got $300 in the bank. How does that work?
Well, the thing about it is, the lady is now worth $34 million.
Yeah.
What did she do over the last 2 or 3 years that made her become that rich?
Oh, you wait until another 2 or 3 years. She's going to be richer if she stays in politics because she's selling out the office. And, you look at all the fraud that's going on in Minneapolis. And you know what? I would say that is just what we see and hear about. We're going, oh, my God. Oh. That's the tip of the iceberg. That's not even the icing on the cake yet.
Yeah.
I think when you get into it, it is going to be a staggering amount. And, I talked about staging grounds. California's another one. And, the whole Southwest. It went from California to the whole Southwest.
What they talked about in that interview, Schweitzer did, is Mexico's real agenda isn't to open the border and let people into our country. That's not the end game. That's the beginning. What they want to do, what Mexico's goal is to reclaim California and New Mexico and Texas, all of the properties that they said they lost in the mid-1800s. They want them back. And you may say, oh, that's ridiculous. No, it's their end game. You have to listen to this guy talk. He did his homework. I'm talking about Schweitzer. And the book, again, it's The Invisible Coup. The Invisible Coup. And it's out now. You can get it on Amazon and other bookstores.
Let's imagine for a minute. Let's say that they call conservatives MAGA dummies or whatever. So we'll just call them the radical liberals or the, libtards. Let's say that we or Mexico gets California and they get Texas. Big losses for us, big states. How are they going to compensate us for the assets we have there?
First of all, the odds of them ever getting it are slim and none. Because
it'd be war. It would, the bombers would fly.
Yep.
And I think, you would have to choose a side where it'd be, well, I'm for Mexico. Then you may as well pledge your allegiance there because.
But Bill, how they're doing it is so subtle. Let's take a break here. Like and share the show. Like and share our program. It's Jim and Bill. It's another day. Also, if you want to contact us, mail at jimandbill.com.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. What they talk about in that interview, that Peter Schweitzer interview, is that it's not an overt taking over of the property, no sending in troops. What they want to do is they want to swarm the area with illegals who vote, and then by using our own system, turn it against us. Vote against the government. Vote against the system, and eventually, like you just said, take it over. Mm-hmm. And then if you have enough people in government, you can have resolutions. We want to secede from the Union and become part of Mexico again. This is their thinking. It's not like a traditional, the army's amassed on the border and they're going to march in. That's not going to happen. They want to take us from within. Wait until you hear. I got other segments I hope to air from that interview. Not today, but I'll air it hopefully tomorrow or the next day, where they talk about China. China, Bill, I'll give you a little preview. China has a system that they've utilized, a chink in our armor, where if you come
kink in
across
our
here,
armor, yeah.
a kink or chink, what? Yeah, maybe that was I didn't mean to
Yeah.
say it that way, but that could have been
Yeah,
a Freudian
let's-
slip.
it was.
My apologies. It wasn't intentional. Oh, I'm in trouble now. But anyway, the thing is, they apparently there's a visa program where China could send people over here on the visa program. They could get pregnant in this country, give birth to a baby in this country.
Anchor baby, yeah.
That baby is now an American. But they then, after the visa is over, they fly back to China with the baby. And the baby is then raised and learns how to become a good little socialist. And then as an American citizen by birthright, it is reinserted back into our society. And then it starts to work against us internally. Apparently, there's one Chinese guy who has been a sperm donor to over 100 children that they've sent into they've had born in this country that way. You know, he's artificially inseminated, I guess. Either that or he's a very busy guy. He has fathered all these children. They've all gone back and studied in China, and they all come back here later on as a citizen. And now, but they're socialist. Their thinking is not American, it's communist. They're thinking around corners, folks. They're trying to take us by any means possible. Then again, Bill, there's the other group of people who are in this country who they let in. We've talked about this before, that literally are probably militias that are waiting to be activated. And by the way, they may be activated with these riots. Right now, it's very cold in the.
Why just our country? Or see, now that's the question: is it just our country, or is it everywhere?
Oh, Bill, when you look at the stage,
Yeah,
and when I say the stage, I mean the global stage. The only country that people really still want to be in and be around, and as bad as our country is on its worst day, it's still light years better than what's number 2 and number 3. I mean, look at England right now. God bless England. They're going through hell. If the English don't stand up and stop it, they're gone. England, as we know it historically, is gone.
so if we go in a time machine and go ahead 100 years, are we going to see the United States? We're going to see England? Or are we going to see a realignment and shuffling of things?
You know, people talk about Trump, and they say, oh, he's so brash. He's so
geez.
bold. He's so this. He's so that. You know what he is? He's just what we need right now. You know, this guy, Newsom, this traitor, Gavin Newsom, and I call him a traitor because he went to Davos. Now, mind you, he is the governor of California.
Yeah, why is he going?
Well, California has gone to hell in a handbasket. He should be spending every day, every waking minute trying to save California.
Yeah.
But this clown gets on an airplane, thanks to funds from George Soros and his son. He flies to Davos, and then he starts to badmouth Trump and the United States publicly.
Well, now, wait a minute. See, I didn't know he was going, but let's just say, okay, he got there. Nice, safe plane paid for by George Soros.
Yeah.
And Air Force One has a problem.
Well, Bill, you know, draw your own conclusions.
Was that the hopes to paint in a president?
Well, I mean, listen, he got there before Trump did, and he already started bad mouthing them.
You know what? I hope karma's a bitch, and you ask the mayor of Los Angeles when she was off doing things, and all of a sudden their dirty deeds burnt down the whole city, and she wasn't there to fix things, and everyone goes, oh, the big one's coming to California, the San Andreas. Well, they are actually on high alert, and it's not the San Andreas fault that they're worried about. There's three or four other major faults that have been inactive, and they have got the seismologist people in an uproar because it's off the scale. And if it happens, those disaster movies that you see, they're nothing. I mean, California will be shaken down to rubble.
Wow. Well,
It's and at that point in time, Mexico, you can have it.
do you think Gavin Newsom cares about California really?
No, he wants to be the president of the United States because I think he thinks he's going to be more than that.
He took all of his people during the COVID situation. He was the most difficult governor. I mean, he locked them down. He had penalties if you were out walking around without a mask. But yet he went to the French Laundry, which is a restaurant, and he was caught laughing and having drinks with his buddies, while everybody else is in their house and they can't come out and they can't go to work and they have to do their schooling in their house. Everything this guy does is about Gavin Newsom. It's not about making our country better or his state better. He's over in Europe, and he's literally telling Europe, stop going down on your knee for Donald Trump. I think one of the lines was, Donald Trump is a, what do you call it, a Tyrannosaurus Rex. He used some analogy that included a dinosaur. But Donald Trump is a T-Rex, and if you don't go along with him, he'll eat you up. That's what he said, something like that. Well, that's actually a compliment, because I think Trump is. I know how he meant it. He meant it to say that Donald Trump is ancient, archaic. He's a dinosaur. No, he is a monster. If you get in his way, you're in trouble. I think right now you'll find that they'll be getting in line in Davos to talk to Trump. The different countries realize they can talk tough on the stage when Trump isn't in the room, but when he's in the room, and the reality of the situation sets in, that Trump may actually say, hey, listen, you don't want to back the United States, NATO? We're pulling out. You're on your own.
What I'm getting from this is the Democrats' candidate for 2028 has been chosen, and by Soros, and he's in Davos now.
Yes,
and that's Gavin Newsom, and he's there for a reason. So
what Soros said, Bill, was, I guess he said this in Davos, is he's putting all of his money, all of his support behind Gavin Newsom.
Why?
Because Gavin Newsom is a useful pawn. Gavin Newsom is easily manipulated because Gavin Newsom doesn't give a damn about our country. He cares about
He's a puppet.
Gavin Newsom, you know.
And where are the other clowns from California? It's funny because when I grew up in California, because I was born there, California, they always used to lament that why vote doesn't mean anything. And they were more conservative then than obviously they are now. But why vote? It doesn't mean anything because of the East to West Coast. And they made it a change in networks pre-calling everything until California got their votes in, because a lot of people wouldn't go vote. My, how the tides have changed. Now California seems to be a big, kingpin in all of these decisions out there. And that's because of a little coup. I forget, Indian Lake, I think, is where they all got together and did stuff.
Well, when you don't have control of your voting system, when one party controls the entire system, how it's run, you can manipulate every subsequent voting election after that point. Case in point, do you honestly think that Mandami, whatever his name is, Zoran, oh boy, Mr. Z.
Zoran Mandamit.
Do you think that he actually won because of an honest vote? No. Nobody talks about this, by the way. Even the people on the right don't talk about it. But they allowed millions of illegals into New York City. They're still there. They weren't escorted from the city. They didn't just stay in the Roosevelt Hotel until a bus rolled up and packed them all up and took them away. They sunk into the fabric of New York City. They are now part of the city. And in New York, you cannot question their citizenship. So if they walk in and want to vote, you can't say, "Excuse me, sir, are you a citizen? Excuse me, sir, I notice you have you speak with an accent or a different language. Are you from this country?" You can't do that. That's against the law. You'll go to jail. All right? You have to be quiet. So
now, I don't even know that you have the right to flex your political feelings.
No.
If you're conservative, you don't have the right to go out and promote your candidate. I'm not saying that's law yet, but that it seems to be the direction they're going.
So
you want to talk about them and their agenda? You're dead on.
Did you see
want to talk about anything
Mandami's
else?
rallies? Mandami's rallies were composed of, in most cases, a diverse, different nationalities who hadn't seemed to blend. They were still wearing their scarves or their dresses from their old countries. I mean, and that's wonderful. But I grew up in New York, and I did know, when I say grew up, I worked as a young man in New York, all right, in New York City. And when I was there in the 70s, the people who were from other countries, they were proud to be American, or they were proud to be at least trying to be an American. They were driving the cabs. They were working the buildings. They were doing something constructive and wanting to become part of what we were. There's a difference.
Yeah.
The people who are there now in this country, they're here to make you change, to make us change, and not for them to change.
I'll give you a little Mandani fact, and you can take it as you will. You can probably sit there and insert your own joke into this. I'm going to leave it alone. I'm saying that he did this confession and story as a fluff story distraction of because he's facing a lot of opposition by what he's doing. So he was very proud to announce that, he just bought a bidet.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
It's probably because he's full of, he probably needs one.
He needs to put his head in the bowl and wash out his mouth.
Well, I know people. When I think of bidet, I think of when I visited France, and I'll never forget going into we stayed in an older hotel in a small town in the southern part of France, and it had a bidet in the bathroom, and it was probably the first time that my wife and I had seen one. And I think, we were wondering,
drinking
what
fountain,
does this do? But
you're looking down, you go,
yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
Ah!
My God, I got that right in the eye. Anyway.
Good places. That's better than the other.
Yes, true. So this guy, by the way, Mandami was critical of President Trump's handling of what's happening in Minneapolis. He jumped on the bandwagon.
He's not the president.
He jumped right on the bandwagon, though, to say that it was cruel. These were just good people trying to express their opinion. No, folks, just look at the video. They're throwing rocks and hurling things and hurting people.
Okay, let me ask you a question. You go to New York, or you live in New York, and you're conservative, and you are not happy with the way things are going. So you go to your church and you get a bunch of people together and say, we're going to make signs. We are not going to go out and do anything disruptive, but we're going to stand on corners and do our little chant and raise our signs. That's perfectly normal. Would they be arrested in New York because it's because they're going against Mandani?
Well, if they're going against Mandami, they may enforce rules that they're otherwise lax enforcement.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're selective.
Because the same thing in Minneapolis. Now, the thing that I see on social media and people talking about it, like there was another person that got shoved down to the ground. Two people. It was because they were blocking a vehicle, standing in front of the vehicle, trying to get into the vehicle. So an ICE agent went over and pulled him and shoved him down. And I'm like going, you're interfering with a federal vehicle, a federal officer. You can be pushed out of the way. You're trying to block traffic. You can, be engaged. You don't have the right to do that. You can hold a sign and say, you suck. Yeah. But that's about as far as it goes. When you start breaking into churches, throwing bricks at cars, standing in their way to block them, shove, and they do the shoving. You do stupid things, bad things will happen to
But
you. But the sentiment I'm saying is all pro-right and not pro.
Bill, what you have to realize, and I'm sure you do, is their end game isn't to protest. Their end game is to literally cause civil unrest and, dare I say, violence. They want
I don't know.
violence.
I don't know that all the people there that are doing the protesting, they just like to make noise.
No. I think that there are some useful pawns there, but they've been infiltrated by people who are instigators.
Yeah, I'm saying the useful pawns, they have no idea what it is they're doing or what they're doing it for. They're just there to.
I saw one over the weekend when the crowd was pushed back onto the sidewalk, and ICE agents were across the street. All of a sudden, this guy jumps out of the crowd with a megaphone. Come on, everybody! Come on, rally! Don't give in! Don't. I mean, that was an instigator. That was somebody who was there to cheerlead the crowd into a fight, into a confrontation. They're out there, folks. They want to see another 2020. They want to see violence. Hey, like and share the show if you would. It's Jim and Bill. It's another day. We're here Monday through Saturday. Also, if you want to contact us, mail at jimandbill.com.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. So Davos, the first full day of Trump being in Davos is today. It should be interesting. I'm glad the president made it. I'd love to hear the backstory on that.
Right.
I don't think we ever will. But he is going to essentially say to NATO, from what I understand, we've always had your back. We've been paying the bills and we've been covering your debts for decades. Mm-hmm. And now when we need NATO to back us, you're shivving us in the back, And by the way, I should point out, and I've wanted to do this for days, us wanting Greenland is not new. Us wanting Greenland goes back
for a while.
It goes back to the mid 1800s.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Harry Truman offered $100 million in silver, I believe, maybe it was gold, but it was $100 million to Denmark to buy Iceland, Greenland rather. Oh, it's so early, folks. If you knew how early this show is, $100 million to buy Greenland in 1946. And the Denmark, which still was trying to get back on its feet from being occupied by the Germans, Denmark said no. If they had taken that deal and just put that money in the bank, $100 million worth of gold in 1946 would be trillions today. They would be one of the wealthiest countries in the world. But they didn't do it. Now you have France. France, I guess they sent some troops over to Greenland too, as a token show of force. The Danes, they made a big deal. They sent troops to Greenland yesterday. 34 soldiers.
Oh, they called up the whole army.
My Boy Scout troop was bigger when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Troop 100, Our Lady of Grace Church in Westport, Massachusetts. We had more than 34 kids in it.
We could send over a Girl Scout troop and win.
That's true. It's true. So,
and I'm not saying that lightly, ladies, because women can be tougher than men. Don't get me wrong.
But the funny thing about it is this Danish Prime Minister, his name is Mette Frederiksen. You like how I do that? Mette Frederiksen. He said that. I take that back. No, Mette Frederiksen is the Danish Prime Minister. They all run together. His Greenland counterpart, Jens Frederik Nielsen, right? He said to his people yesterday, it's not likely there will be a military conflict, but it cannot be ruled out. Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen then told his people to prepare for 5 days isolation. Have food stocks in your house because there may be some kind of a conflict. Folks, there will be no conflict in Greenland. We'll send in 1,000 troops, and by the way, which is perfectly legal for us to do because we have a military base on Greenland, and part of the deal in 1946 was we had unlimited access. Now, you may say, why would we need to buy it if we have unlimited access to the island with our troops? Well, it's because we want to be able to put up missile defense systems along the northern frontier of Greenland. If you want to see how important Greenland is to us, take a look at the map, look at a globe, and look at Greenland on the very top. Look how close it is to Russia. The missiles from China and Russia, they don't come over the Pacific. They come over Russia, and they come over the Arctic, and they would come over Greenland, and then they would come into the United States. And we would have a 20-minute head start to protect ourselves if we owned Greenland.
Well, we could put countermeasures there to shoot them down over the water before they ever even passed over them, or Canada. Now, Canada, they're that protects them too, because when missiles fire, they can have a mishap or just happen to drop out of the sky for whatever reason. Doesn't mean it's not going to be deadly when it hits, so yeah, you want to have a buffer zone.
But Canada is anti us having Greenland. They've joined England and France in voicing their concern. Now, mind you, they're also starting to dance with China in China. Canada.
Well, China's trying to say that they're close to Greenland too, and I'm going, how does that work in a map?
Well, we're in our hemisphere, Greenland sits. In China's hemisphere, it's nowhere near it. So, but the thing is, we have a situation in Canada where we got the heir apparent to Justin Trudeau as the prime minister now. We were supposed to get a conservative, but I think Trump made a political blunder by talking about Canada being the 51st state. And when he did that, I think a lot of the independents in Canada became nervous and voted for the guy they have now, this heir apparent to Trudeau, who is a leftist. And so Canada, they rely on our defense too. Don't kid yourself. Canada knows that if push came to shove, the United States would save their bacon. It's just a matter of fact. We would do it to protect ourselves. We wouldn't want to have any enemy come into Canada and have them so close to us. Mexico is the same way. All these different countries are our neighbors, in quotes. They're supposed to be good neighbors. Well, and they should be good neighbors because they've relied on our help. They've relied on our money. They've relied on our military. They've relied on our good nature as a people. And yet they turn around when push comes to shove and they try to put it to us. And, I think Trump may be doing this intentionally, Bill. He may want to, it's like he's shaking the tree to find out really to let the globalists, to let the anti-Americans raise their ugly heads in a time of crisis. And I think, for example, Macron, every time he's with Trump, he's kissing his derriere, right? But all of a sudden he sounds like he's a big anti-Trumper right now. You have Keir, what's his name? Starmer, yeah, in England. He's showing himself to be an anti-Trumper, an anti-American. When they were on the verge of goose-stepping in Trafalgar Square, when they were on the verge of and they had Nazis walking down the Champs-Élysées in Paris. They occupied Paris for what, 4 years? They had them there, and they'd still be there if it wasn't for the fact that we sent in our young blood to rescue their bacon. They should be forever indebted to us. It shouldn't be, that was 60 years ago. No, there's no time limit on that. They would have been under Nazi rule right now if it wasn't for the United States. And for that alone, they should back us. But these SOBs, they have no loyalty. And Trump knows that. So, Trump, people forget, folks, that as bad as Russia was in World War II, when push came to shove, even though initially they started out being an ally of Hitler, Stalin did an about-face early on, and he became one of our allies, and they lost a lot of Russian soldiers in that war, putting down Nazism, So and now that Russia is no longer a, quote, communist country, I think that they would really love more than anything else to be buddies with us.
No, I think you're right.
And I think, maybe there's a realignment coming. And by the way, nothing would be more powerful than to have two superpowers as buddies.
Yeah. Two superpowers kind of trump China and anything else they can cobble together.
Absolutely.
Venezuela, Mexico. Oh, they got an army down in Mexico, but, I can remember when I was down in Mexico and I was out and about and, they have their military patrolling around, but, I was just a teen then. And I could have turned around and said, boo, and the guy would have jumped out of his boots.
Bill, they can't handle the cartels in Mexico with their military.
No, they can't.
Yeah. So can you imagine if we sent in the 82nd Airborne, 101st Airborne into Mexico? I mean, the people don't understand the might, the power that we have in this country. We may have our internal squabbles, but the mere fact is we're the strongest military in the world.
We are, and it will stay strong, much to the chagrin of a lot of people that are on the left protesting. So the real question you got to ask, do you want to have sane, democratic people in charge of the biggest arsenal on the planet? Or do you want to have some wackies like Mandani or what
AOC.
else?
Yeah.
AOC.
Jasmine Crockett.
Because you got to understand the structure that was built to build the military complex, you don't vote for. That's not on the table. It's going to be there no matter what. And it's there for a reason. And, it goes with this country no matter what's in charge.
Yep.
You don't want to hand that suitcase over.
Supposedly there's a meeting in Davos with all the key players in the Greenland situation. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of discussion. I think Trump has made up his mind. Truman couldn't do it and other presidents couldn't do it. We're doing it. It's key to our country now more so than ever before.
Well, the left is worried and the hate stories are out. Oh, Trump says he stopped 8 wars, and I'm going, yeah, he did. Well, he started 10. What's that? Well, the war on tariffs, the war in Minneapolis.
Bill,
and I'm like going, oh, come on.
Unbelievable.
This is the best you can do. And, the war in Minneapolis, well, okay, you want to call it a war? Let's call it a war. He didn't start it. You did.
Let's talk about the population of Greenland, by the way. This is an important thing. You may think of it as a country, Greenland.
It's a big, vast piece of land with not a lot of people.
Rhode Island has more people in it. The little state of Rhode Island has more people in it than Greenland does. It's a big, empty, ice-covered rock. And so it's not like we're imposing our will on tens of millions of people in Greenland. They're not there. It's like 57,000 people, and if that, and that's it. Howard Lutnick was over in Davos. There was a group that went before the president, and they spoke before the president even arrived, obviously. And he put everything on the table when he was speaking. Listen.
Well, I think you should start at a much higher level. Okay. We are in Davos at the World Economic Forum. And the Trump administration and myself, we are here to make a very clear point. Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America. It's a failed policy. It is what the WEF has stood for, which is export, offshore, far shore, find the cheapest labor in the world, and the world is a better place for it. The fact is, it has left America behind. It has left the American workers behind. And what we are here to say is that America First is a different model, one that we encourage other countries to consider, which is that our workers come first. We can have policies that impact our workers. Sovereignty is your borders. You're entitled to have borders. You shouldn't offshore your medicine. You shouldn't offshore your semiconductors. You shouldn't offshore your entire industrial base and have it be hollowed out beneath you. You should not be dependent for that which is fundamental to your sovereignty on any other nation. And if you're going to be dependent on someone, it darn well better be your best allies. Okay, and so that is a different way of thinking. It is completely different than the WEF. I viewed the WEF as not a flagpole in the middle, but in fact, they are the flag. Whichever way the wind blew, so it blew. You should have solar, you should have wind. Why are you going to do solar and wind? Why would Europe agreed to be net zero in 2030 when they don't make a battery? They don't make a battery. So if they go 2030, they are deciding to be subservient to China, who makes the batteries.
Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and he hit it out of the park when he was speaking. By the way, there was no speech impediment when he said WEF. That's World Economic Forum, all right? Now, I want you to understand that he wasn't stuttering or, there was no impediment there. That was, he was just calling it the WEF.
His denture grip didn't fail him.
Yeah, it didn't fail him. But he's right. Europe has essentially, to use a term used by, what's his name, Biden's son, what's his name? I can't even, how soon we forget.
Hunter?
Pardon?
Hunter,
yes. Hunter said, one of his favorite quotes was, I'm not going to drop my kimono. Well, Europe has dropped its kimono, all right?
Yeah, they have.
They have literally, you know what they've done with their own agricultural system?
What?
They have put so much of a burden on their agricultural system in Europe that many of the traditional farms have gone out of business. So they're now fruits and vegetables, the cost of it has gone through the roof in Europe because they don't have the farms producing anymore.
Well, you got plenty of nuts and fruitcakes on the streets, though. So
no, you'll find those in Brussels at the European Union.
And Minneapolis, too.
That's true. So this is going to be an interesting Davos. Expect the left. By the way, Trump went out yesterday. I don't know if you saw this or not. It was a big deal. He took over the White House press briefing, and he came out. It was much anticipated. The banner was up for like an hour, president to speak at the press briefing, right? So all the networks had their cameras there, and they were ready to go, and they fired up when he walked out on the stage, and he had a big book with him. The book was, each page was an achievement his administration had done in the first year. I'm talking about it was bigger than the New York phone book. And he started to thumb through them and say what they were. And he stood there, and he had a stack of the people that ICE has arrested in Minneapolis alone. And he must have had 100 pictures of criminals, murderers, rapists, child molesters, all these different people. And he's taking each one and showing them to the camera, right? And he was there at the White House press briefing for close to 2 hours. This is yesterday before he flew to Davos. Now, people may say, why would he do that? Isn't that boring? No. He was making a point. See, yesterday was the 1-year anniversary, and the media was not going to give him any airtime. The media wasn't going to say, it's been a year and look at all that the president's done. So the president made a determination, look, I'm going to do it personally on the stage. I'm going to make them all think it's an important meeting, and then I'm going to, once their cameras are on, I'm going to tell the world of all the things that we've done. It's important for you to know because the media is complicit in the burial. They don't want you to know this information. They want to side intentionally with those on the left. You know, I'll give you an example. MS Now, the former MSNBC, after he was into this for about half an hour, they said, well, we'll keep watching the press conference. When something breaking happens, we'll cut back in. But let's continue on to talk about the presidential midterms coming. I mean, they showed their bias right up front. They were blatant about it. CNN stayed, Fox stayed, Newsmax stayed. They all covered the whole thing. But MS Now, they couldn't control themselves. They had to cut away. You know, and Bill, I don't even know. Are they still technically part of NBC, or have they been sold?
See, I don't know. You know, I see that them really touting Rachel Maddow a lot and all the stuff. Oh, like she's got him now. She's got the killer story. Nobody talking about it. I notice it because they're really promoting it. But then I'm going like, okay, is she now getting the ratings to go with her salary? Nope, not at all.
No. MS Now, by the way, has probably at some times of the day, we may have more people downloading our show than they have at MS Now. So anyway, I could go on and on. Today, pay attention to Davos and to Trump and say a prayer for him if you are like-minded, if you are somebody who believes in prayer, as I do. Say a prayer for President Trump. He's on strange turf. There's a lot of strangers walking around. Anything can happen. Just, pray that he's safe. And everybody there is safe. I'm just about done. You have anything you want to add before we wrap this up, Bill?
No, I was looking at Gavin Newsom saying he should have brought knee pads to Davos for people, the pathetic leaders' response to Trump, and I think, part of the reason he's there is to sit there and just be a bad cheerleader, but a cheerleader for the left. And
he's running for the presidency thanks to
well, he's paid
Soros.
for. He's bought and paid for.
Yeah.
And his hair looks stupid, but I see it's a Hollywood thing now, where the stand-up hair with the black and the gray in there to make him look like he's distinguished. And I'm like going, no, he looks like a circus clown, but he's a phony. Let's see what else is in the news. Just I'm looking. We didn't talk about Tina Peters, did we?
No, and that is a story that is a tragedy. They're literally trying to kill that lady.
She got slap-shanked.
Yeah.
Somebody shoved her in prison, and when somebody shoves you, you push them back.
Yes.
But the video conveniently caught her pushing them back and nothing else, and so they're saying that she's violent. This is a woman that is on death's bed.
She's like 77 years old or 76 years old. She's a Gold Star mom, never had a parking ticket, and they put her in jail for no good reason. They are scumbags in Colorado.
They want to kill her in prison.
Yes.
Because they want you to see this as this is what we can do to you because
absolutely.
We got the power. And Hillary and Bill are proving that, they have they were subpoenaed. They were supposed to go. They didn't go in and do it.
Oh, but they don't have to because they're Hillary and Bill.
Exactly. Clinton's lawyers told Political that the House oversight subpoenas are not enforceable because they are not related to a valid legislative purpose and therefore invalid and legally unenforceable.
Well, Bill, how would you like it if your lawyer could all of a sudden say, no, we're not going to do that because we think it's wrong. And that's like they're not in a position to come out with a judgment. They are defense attorneys defending the Clintons, but yet they act as if they're judge and jury. Oh, we looked at this and this is not legal.
Well, they act like they're in power. Everything is state run, and they're still at the head of the state. Which there may be some truth to that because there is a deep state that does have a lot of control and power, and they're just sitting there going, no matter what you do, you can't do it because we say you can't. And you're seeing a lot of judges do this. you were improperly appointed, like the one person that was appointed for New York, and the Democratic judge came out and said, well, it was an improper appointment. So I guess
that was New Jersey.
Final,
Yeah, that was in New Jersey.
yeah. And now Democratic judge going, well, I'll appoint somebody for the temporary role. That's not your job. But see, this is how the liberal left works. And when they say, I ran a research on it, this Trump is not my president. The people on the left, they just figure if they don't vote for you, even though you won, you are not their president.
I mean, Biden.
Remember that if they do get in power.
Biden flooded the zone with judges. I mean, he literally flooded the zone. And you may say, well, why would he do that? Well, you're seeing it now. All these aren't judges in the true sense of the word. They're political operatives. They're stopgaps. They are people who are doing the work of the left. Period. End of sentence. So,
look, nothing major may happen today. Then again, a lot. I'm sure Trump is going to have a lot to say. Greenland's on the table. Gavin Newsom is there to make mayhem and say stupid stuff. So things can happen. Maybe not. Don't know. But
one thing I do know,
you won't hear about it.
One thing I do know is you and I will be paying attention and talking about it tomorrow.
You're damn straight we will. But until next time, I advise you to go about your business today and have a good day.
Yes.
Because tomorrow it'll be another day. And until then, hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
Who are we? And why are we here? Will we be welcome or possibly feared? Do we unite and stand tall as a nation of one? Or split and divide or be mocked and shunned? Are our leaders patriotic? Share our beliefs? Are they red, white, and blue? The truth is out there. You just have to search. Settle for less, you'll be left in the lurch. No left-leaning lies, no socialist swill. It's straight talking truth.
Side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. All music the property of Jim and Bill. All rights reserved.
This is CRN America.